Okay, so day one, we're going to cover probably the most fundamental three things that you need to keep front of mind anytime when you're thinking about property investing. So the three most important criteria are cash flow, capital gains, capital improvement. So when you're looking at an investment property as an option, even when you're thinking about your first home, you want to be thinking how this property or these properties are going to look when you start putting the numbers on a chart. So cash flow, there's three kinds of cash flow. There's negative gearing, negative cash flow. This is when the property costs you money to own. Now there's a few different ways to look at the numbers of cash flow. You can look at the property as if it's 100% financed, 80% financed. You can look at it with no leverage. There's a few different nuances, but it's important to understand the concept. There's also cash flow properties that they might cover their costs of owning them through covering the finance cost, but they don't cover all of the costs, the rates, the insurance, the maintenance. So sometimes you'll get properties that technically they might cover the expense of getting everything financed, but when you total it all up, the numbers go up and down depending on the vacancy rate. And then there's properties that are cash flow positive. Now you can get this through gearing, but if you're looking at 100% financing your next property investment, positive cash flow comes when it's very obvious that there's a profit at the end of the year, regardless of the tax deductibility around the interest costs and regardless of the regulations of the time. The property makes you money and there's a surplus, and then from that surplus you get to decide what you're going to do with it. Maybe you put it into your mortgage, maybe you spend it on a trip to Fiji, but there's definitely a profit. So number one is cash flow, number two is capital gains. Capital gains relates to where the property is, the kind of property, and generally speaking we're looking at historical capital gains, increases in value of properties in that area, by the type, and we even get suburb specific. Now because nobody can predict the future, we can only look at the past and extrapolate, and we can extrapolate in a band. So we can say with higher level of confidence in the next year or two we know what the gains are going to be depending on where the property is and what kind of type it is. But as we get further, 5, 10, 15, 20 years in the future, it's much harder to make those capital gains predictions. But if you can buy a $700,000 property in Kapiti or a $700,000 property in Remuera, if those properties are both exactly the same and they're returning the same rent, generally speaking, going with a property in central Auckland is going to get you higher capital gain than a property, say central North Island, for example. So I think with capital gains, a lot of people tend to forget that the type of property is important. You might be looking at commercial/residential mix in the middle of Nelson, for example. The capital gains on that type of property is going to be quite different from a property in the suburbs of Nelson. So capital gains is an important consideration. And number three, capital improvement is around renovations. It's around spending money to improve the property and get a return. So what does this mean? It means maybe you're putting $10,000 in and you're getting a $40,000 uplift in equity gain. Generally speaking, when you're looking at renovations or improvements to property, you want high return on your capital invested, especially if you're borrowing the money as well. Now, when you're looking at particular properties as investment opportunities, you can assess the potential for improvement. A lot of people don't want to do the work, or they're not skilled and they don't have an eye for detail. You might be able to see how a wall can come down, or a new garden or a new bedroom or kitchen can be added for 20, 30 grand, and you're expecting there will be a $100,000 uplift on the other side. So capital improvement is your renovations, and it's a lot more for the DIYers, but really specifically you just got to be making sure you understand the numbers. And what two things we like to take into account is, if you're trying to figure out is a property, attacking this problem of how to find a property that covers these three C's. How do you find a property that's high cash flow, high capital gains, and with really good opportunity on capital improvement? That's hard. But if we invert the problem and we say, okay, what's the kind of investment we don't want? Well, we really don't want an extremely negative cash flow. We don't want something in a bad location, in a bad property type, and we certainly don't want something that's fully priced, that there's no opportunity to add value. So reversing that challenge helps simplify it and make you feel like, oh yeah, okay, I can understand that now. And just remember the Meatloaf song that 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Okay? If you can find something that's high cash flow, high capital gains, but there's no room for improvement, that's okay. Any combination is going to work depending on your current stage for investing, your available equity and your borrowing power, and your aptitude to find deals and your willingness to take action. So understand these concepts. Tomorrow we're going to cover 2 more C's, and you just want to really make sure you keep this front of mind. Any property you're looking at, assess it on its 3 metrics: cash flow, capital gains, capital improvement, and there'll be a good frame of mind. Any questions, leave them below, and I'll put the day 1 of the 21 email in the comments below.